Um, Hello and welcome to the Secrets of Healthful Motherhood Summit. My name is Vera Stepina. I am your host, and I am really excited to introduce you to a wonderful, amazing expert today. Her name is Dr. Lisa Young. Dr. Lisa Young is an internationally recognized portion size expert. She is a nutrition and diet authority, international speaker. She's an author, a professor. She wrote 2 books, which is Portion Teller and the Portion Teller Plan. You can find both of them on Amazon and Barnes & Noble. And I'm really excited to welcome Dr. Lisa to our summit today. Hi, Lisa. How are you?
Good. It's wonderful to be here. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much for making time. I know that you are really, really busy, and we are on a really tight schedule here. So, can you tell us a little bit about yourself? Why did you become inspired in nutrition?
Yeah, I'm a nutritionist. I have a private practice. I teach at New York University. I'm the author of The Portion Teller. And I've always been interested in healthy eating in that I've always seen a relationship between health and eating healthy as it fits into the entire healthy lifestyle, exercise, stress reduction, mood. It all sort of works together. And my specific focus is on portion control, not where you have to eat tiny portions, but really learning how to understand a portion and mastering portion awareness so that you could eat all foods. You don't have to be on a diet. And where healthy eating and weight loss is really more of a lifestyle change as opposed to having to do a complete overhaul.
So as I understand, your approach to nutrition is basically you can eat everything you like, but in a certain amount. So you don't do any low fat or low carb. What is it exactly?
Well, what I believe in is that all foods can be included in a healthy diet. Things like fruits and vegetables, you don't really have to worry as much about the portion. And then there are certain things like the starches, which people seem to battle with the proteins. One day it's low carb, one day it's high protein, and we're always swinging the pendulum back and forth because none of them really work. At the end of the day, the best diet to go on, of course, is the one you don't even know you're on, where you're making healthy lifestyle changes and you're including everything. So one piece of cake, I'm not saying you should go out and eat cake every day, but one piece of cake or one scoop of ice cream isn't what makes somebody fat. It's that deprivation, binging, overeating syndrome that really is where the problem lies.
So when we talk about portions, do you believe in counting calories or macronutrients?
I absolutely do not believe in counting calories, and as I wrote in my book and in a lot of my research, even the experts can't even figure out the calories. I did a study where I asked dietitians at a conference to estimate calories, and they couldn't do it. We can't do it because we never know how food is exactly how it's prepared when we're outside of our own home. And it's very, very difficult. Almost nobody can judge portions effectively. So that was one of the reasons that I came up with this system, because watching your portions is much easier than counting calories. For example, everyone has a hand. You might not have a deck of cards, but you always have a hand. So 3 ounces of, meat looks like a deck of cards roughly, or it also looks like your palm. If someone has a bigger palm, they could eat a little more. It's just a temporary gauge. A fist is about a cup of rice, cup of pasta. So, instead of counting calories, you just want to raise your awareness to what constitutes a healthy portion, give or take, not measuring it down to the last second. Because that becomes too tedious, and we need to be able to enjoy, what we're eating.
I agree with you. So basically, for somebody who is a little bigger, like let's say a taller guy, his fist is obviously bigger than mine, so his portion is going to be a little bit larger. That's
exactly
right.
So it's and he could get away with eating a little bit more. That's the important point.
When we count calories, we always assign more calories to somebody who is heavier or taller or with bigger frames or however you call it.
Exactly, and they could eat more calories. We could eat, but we want to just sort of be somewhat mindful.
That is a really great approach, I think. And so basically it's more like intuitive eating, right? Instead of writing everything down or, tracking everything.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think you have to track. I don't think you have to track everything all the time. And people say, oh, I have to track. Track for a month. And I have a 30-day tracker in my book. If you keep a food record for 30 days, that will really raise your awareness and, in a sense, train you for you to be able to see your pitfalls, see your strengths, see your weaknesses. And then maybe once you sort of have that 30-day period down, do it periodically. So it doesn't have to be this all or nothing every day type of thing.
Mm-hmm. So basically you do that for a while and you become more aware of how much you eat and how much it requires for you to feel fuller or give you more energy.
Exactly.
So I've been watching a lot of documentaries and a lot of movies on nutrition. It's my passion. Nutrition is my passion. So I'm really, really interested in that. And everywhere I hear and I see that portions have changed so much, even in the past, 50, 60 years, even like 30 years. And like 30 years ago, we would have a little small bag of French fries, and now a small size is at least twice as big.
Yeah, that's the research that I did, and I write about that in the book. But when I was a doctoral student, I studied how the sizes of things got bigger, and it's particularly a problem because we often eat in units. I'll eat one bagel, I'll eat one muffin, I'll eat one steak. But we don't pay attention to the size of that muffin, bagel, or steak. So as it gets bigger, we think we only ate one. So the package of French fries, like at McDonald's or wherever, doubles in size, but it's still only one. It's still small, And so it's particularly problematic because these calories sneak up on us, and even though it seems like common sense that a big portion has more calories than a small portion, that common sense, unfortunately, does not translate to people's practices. They know it intuitively, but they just don't follow it.
And, there's go ahead. Sorry, didn't mean to interrupt.
So it's very important to really just be mindful of that.
Mm-hmm. There's this e-card that goes around Facebook with a picture of a ginormous sized pizza, like the size of a house, and the guy stands next to it, and he's like, well, I only ate one slice of pizza. And I think that reflects it a lot, we don't know how big the size of the portion that we just ate.
Exactly. I'll only have one. And when they say I only have exactly, that I only have one. Like, for example, I collected quotes when I wrote my book, and Vera, the retired Yankee player, he was asked if he wanted his pizza pie cut into 4 or 8 slices. He said 4, I can never eat 8. So, pie is the same exact size. But, of course, what happens is, things are twice as big, and we end up sort of playing games with ourselves. So we have to be very careful.
And what amazes me is that when you go to a restaurant and you order a meal, whatever that is, it always comes with a huge side of something, and it's not a side of salad, of course. It's a side of mashed potatoes, a side of French fries, or, just something that's equally not healthy. But because it comes as a portion, we believe that, we need to finish that. And a lot of it's in our mind. Mm-hmm.
Exactly. Whatever they serve us is something we have to finish. And that's the way we think, and that's not a healthy way of doing it, but that's just the way we're trained.
And it's sometimes hard because we work hard for our money, right? So if we pay for something, we automatically feel like we need to finish that portion.
And the bigger issue is we eat out more than we used to. So eating out used to be a special occasion. Now that eating out is a once a day type of proposition, what happens is that because we're eating out, we sort of feel we paid for it, we got to finish it, so it becomes this sort of vicious cycle because it's no longer it's no longer like a once-in-a-while deal. It's an everyday kind of deal, and that's really what creates most of the problem.
So what would you recommend for us how to become more mindful when we go out, how to teach ourselves, how much we're supposed to eat? The same with the fist and with the palm?
Well, yeah, that's part of it. But, there's a couple of sort of general things. First of all, you don't want to allow yourself to be so hungry where you'll just demolish anything you come across. So you want to, in some way, you want to really allow yourself to eat a little snack, eat a little something before you go out. And that's important because this way you don't attack and you don't eat the breadbasket. Something else. Be mindful. You don't have to worry about the portions of everything, and you don't have to eat tiny portions. So you don't have to worry about the size of the salad, but you do have to worry about the salad dressing. So even if you don't know exactly how much you're having, like 2 tablespoons is like a shot glass, order the dressing on the side. That will save you hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of calories. So you don't have to know exactly what it is, but you just want to know that you're making progress. Another thing, starch. Starch is something, one day it's good, one day it's bad, and that's because that's a food group that we tend to eat too much of. So you want to always try to have half your plate, like if you're going out to eat, half your plate vegetables, and then a quarter of the protein, like, fish, chicken, and then the other quarter starch. So the fist approach is good, and the visuals that I have, like a baseball, that's good, but also the plate method. Only a quarter should be starch, and starch will not make you fat, and you don't have to cut it out entirely. You just want to eat the right starch. You want to choose whole grains. Brown rice instead of white rice, whole wheat pasta instead of, regular pasta.
I think what also happens a lot is you will go to the restaurant and you feel like you're ordering something healthy, and maybe, let's say I follow your approach, half of the plate vegetables, quarter and quarter. But then a lot of times even fish can be cooked in like so much butter, or even vegetables, they don't always come as they are. The way they cook them, they can add so many things into them.
Definitely. You always want to try to specify. I'd like my fish, chicken, I'd like it grilled and light on sauce. So you really always want to try to do that specification. And chicken without the...
Go ahead.
And you want to do chicken without the skin.
I used to work in a restaurant a long time ago, and I remember that people order a lot, let's say like pan-seared sea bass or something like that. And not everybody knows pan-seared usually means that it's seared in like a half of a stick of butter that doesn't disappear. It actually goes into the fish. So it's not that easy to always make a healthy choice. But I think your recommendation is great, that you always make sure it's grilled, or it's prepared without something else that we shouldn't even consume in the first place. What would you recommend for kids? Because kids can't always control what they eat, and sometimes we go out and we tend to let them go all out and just eat whatever they want. How do you stop that?
I think what you want to do with kids is, I don't think you want to basically completely ban foods like pizza. And I don't think you want to label foods as good or bad, but I think you want to teach them, in the house you're going to have mostly healthy foods, and you want to make fruits and vegetables and a colorful diet fun. And by making it fun, it's something they want to engage in. And then I would say once in a while, not as a reward, but once in a while I would say it's okay for them to have something fattening, because if you never, ever allow it, it could backfire the other way. So I worry about parents who end up being so super strict and calling food good or bad, because that's not really the best way to go about it. I mean, I had a client who was never allowed to eat pizza or anything, ever. She became obese because she was sort of rebelling against her parents when she got older. So I think we want to teach kids what is an every time, an everyday food, and what is sort of a special occasion food, so that they know when they're not going to have soda on a regular basis. And soda is something I think we could do without altogether. But, it's the type of thing that we really want to teach them, the importance of, okay, if we don't want them to have soda, what are they going to eat instead? What are they going to drink instead? And that's important because we have to really arm them with other things to have and other choices to have.
I have a really funny example of, like limiting soda and everything. We don't do soda in the house, but sometimes there's a party or somebody else comes over for dinner, so sometimes we'll buy soda, and my son is 5, and he would tell me, Mom, I want some soda, and I say, it's okay, you have some today, but we're not going to have soda every day, and he'll say, why? And I always tell him, I really like to have a glass of wine sometimes on a special occasion, but I don't do wine every day. And he's like, well, that's true. You don't drink wine every day. So that kind of made this, correlation. He's like, okay, so Mom doesn't drink wine every day, so maybe I should drink soda every day.
Okay, so that's good. But that's an excellent way to go about it, because you've got to sort of set, some kind of boundaries in a way, and some kind of way that they can sort of understand what they could do regularly and why. Because you don't want them rebelling and doing it sort of like behind your back or sneaking. Like, I have a friend, she has a son who's 10, and he just will just grab a soda when she's not looking. And I'm like, don't do that. So the kid needs to be told what is wrong with it and why you don't want to do that on a regular basis.
Mhm. Do you think that we can get all of the nutrients, or I shouldn't say do you think, what's your opinion on, can we get all of the nutrients from food only, or do we need to have some kind of supplement?
No, most of the nutrients we could get from food. I mean, the one thing you have to just, so if you're not doing any dairy, you want to be mindful of calcium, for example, but you could still get it from almonds, from tofu, from other foods. But if you eat a well-planned, healthy diet, you absolutely could. And you don't need to have a vitamin necessarily.
I've read this research on magnesium, how we don't get enough magnesium from food, how it's really, really important to have enough of that particular, vitamin or mineral. What's your opinion on this particular mineral?
No, that's not true. Magnesium is in whole grains, it's in fruits, it's in vegetables, it's in a combination diet. Broccoli has a fair amount of magnesium. So again, I just think you have to not eat the same thing every day, and you want to try to vary your diet, because if you vary your diet, you're going to be getting an assortment of different things.
Mhm.
Like if you only eat if you only eat carrots, let's say, and there's really not a lot of magnesium for something in that, then you're only getting what you're getting. But unfortunately, a lot of people eat the same things all the time. But if you eat colorful fruits and vegetables and you eat a combination of different foods, you absolutely should not have that problem.
What about something like, let's say, vitamin water that we see at the store a lot? It has a word vitamin in it, so it must be good for us, right?
Yeah, you know what vitamin water is? Vitamin water is sugar water. And they fortify it and they add vitamins. So it's basically like it's a little less sugar than soda. So it's, as far as that's concerned, it's a bettery, sugary drink than soda. But it's basically the equivalent of having a vitamin and having soda water. I've seen vitamin gumballs for kids. That doesn't make them healthy. I've seen those gummy bears for kids. Just because they're vitamins, they're still candy. So it's very, very important to really, watch out with
I see a lot of, actually all of the vitamins for kids are in that kind of form because they must taste good, right? So the kids can eat them because they're not going to eat it if it's not tasty.
Right, but the kids probably don't even need it, or give it to them, 2-3 times a week as a treat, at night, not in the morning before they eat anything.
Mhm.
And the lower the sugar, the better.
What about fish oils and vitamin E? We can get that enough.
Children, I don't think children need to be taking those.
Mhm.
No, I don't think we need to be taking those. Adults, possibly, and that's a whole other discussion. It really depends what else you're eating, what else you're doing, what your doctor advises, but I don't think kids need to be taking that at all. I really don't. Fish twice a week, fatty fish twice a week, make salmon enjoyable. Tuna once in a while. You don't want to have tuna again every day because of the mercury. And going back to a varied diet, balance, moderation.
I think it's just amazing how much information we receive from different sources and even from our doctors when they start recommending adding vitamin D into breast milk or, multivitamin for kids as young as 2 or maybe even younger, I don't know, and fish oils and stuff like that.
Well, I think, first of all, vitamin D is one that, everybody needs, and we're all pretty deficient in that one, so that's one vitamin that I would recommend. But it's also really important to see who's funding the study and, what the source is. Certain people might be making recommendations, and it might be their company, and they might be profiting. So it's always very, very important to look at where a recommendation is coming from. Is it coming from a government report? Is it coming from a review of literature? Or is it coming from a company selling a product and promoting consumers to eat more of their product? So that's something you just want to be mindful of.
And I think this is our problem for the most part, is that we get so much information, but maybe 25% of that is good, legit information that we should follow, and the rest is, probably funded or, being paid for by somebody else.
Yeah, and they also pay for, people also pay to have, if you Google something, just because something comes up first in Google doesn't make it, a more reliable source. It may come up first on Google because they paid for that algorithm. They paid someone to sort of get it worded in a certain way. I got a call from someone, do I want to pay for, an ad, and I'll be listed first. So you have to be very careful about that because people are always looking for fast information. So they click on the first thing they see. And it may be the best information, but it may not be.
And what else I wanted to mention is, so I volunteer at my older son's school once a month, and so I volunteer today. And it's really interesting to see what kind of lunches, every child brings to school. You see somebody who brings a whole wheat grain, whatever, sandwich with some kind of lean protein meat inside, and some fruits and vegetables, some nuts, and, maybe water, usually water. And then there's somebody else who has a Lunchable with the Oreo inside and some kind of a cheese product, some kind of a meat product to go with chocolate milk and stuff like that. And what I think happens a lot is that the parents don't even know that it's not a good source of food for their kids. All of those Go-Gurts and chocolate milk, because they claim it's a good source of calcium or a good source of vitamin D, it makes us believe that we're doing something good for our kids.
Well, I think you have a very important point because you see a lot with chocolate milk. Again, having chocolate milk on occasion, fine. But what parents have to realize is something like chocolate milk doesn't have to be an everyday, all the time food, because even though it has calcium, there are more nutrient-dense ways to get that calcium. And what I mean by that is more nutrient-dense ways is you could get more calcium for less calories from, let's say, plain yogurt or fat-free milk as opposed to the chocolate milk. And in a way, you're probably better off making your own chocolate milk if your kid loves chocolate milk once in a while. get the non-fat milk and add a teaspoon of syrup instead of it being soaked up with all that added sugar. Whenever even oatmeal, you want to get your kid to like oatmeal or a non-sugar cereal, if you add 1 packet of sugar, it's not going to kill you. But a lot of these cereals have 10 to 12, they just keep adding packages of sugar and packages of sugar. And that's a problem. They have 5, 6, 7, teaspoons of sugar, 10, 15 grams of sugar. But just because they have vitamins, moms might think, oh, this is health food. So it is very important to recognize that.
Since you mentioned sugar, I was going to ask you this last question. I know you're short on time. There is a lot of debate about sugar and fruit. Is fruit good for us or fruit is bad for us?
Is what? Fruit?
Yes.
Fruit juice is something you probably would like to limit as much as you can. A little bit of orange juice is okay. You are getting the calcium. You are getting the calcium only if it's calcium fortified. You're getting vitamin C, you're getting other things, but you are much, much, much better off with the actual fruit. It has a higher water content. It has more fiber. So you're going to feel full. Chances are you're not going to eat 4 oranges because you'll be full after you peel it, you chew it. After the first one, you have fiber. But when you just guzzle down the juice, that's where it's a problem. So the fruit is actually okay. It's the juice that you don't want to have too much of.
Mm-hmm. So the content of sugar in fruit, we can't really, we shouldn't be worried about it that much, right? No fruit before bed, or don't eat bananas because they're too high in sugar, or grapes.
No, absolutely not. And I write in my book, no one got fat from too many carrots or bananas or split pea soup. We're sort of missing the point here when we think that.
Mm-hmm.
It's really a question of a quantity issue. We're eating so much sugar. You have one of these big gulps, these tremendous sodas in the movie theater that are giving us 50 teaspoons of sugar. So I'm not so worried about the grapes versus the blueberries versus the raspberries. We're talking in the single numbers, the differences. So you don't want to bog yourself down with minutia. You want to focus more on the details that matter.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, thank you so much for all the answers and for all of your information. It was wonderful. Lisa, thank you so much for making time.
It was a pleasure. It was a pleasure.
Thank you. Who's listening? This is Dr. Lisa Young. You have a link to her website in the email that you received this morning. And my name is Vera Stepina. This was an interview for the Secrets of Healthful Motherhood Summit. Thank you so much for listening, and have a good day. Thank you.